to the Goody Room, your one-stop shop for everything movies, TV, and more. We know you want the goodies. Welcome back to the Goody Room. I'm Matt the Nachos. With me always is my man in the chair, Frankie Rock. How we doing, Frank?
I'm doing really great. Just happy to be back. How about
I
you?
know. I feel like I need one of those stews. Like, we are back. We are back.
Like one of those grand announcers, like we're walking into the castle and it's like presenting.
Right? Yeah, it's been a while. We had to take a little break there. Some of us got sick. Stuff happens, right? And we
Right.
said, we told you the people. I mean, it's not like any of you are begging us for our next episode or next recording.
I did find that interesting. There were no notifications on any of our socials asking for us to come back, but here we are.
We just we're just gonna keep pounding out the content until we get through to you guys. All right.
Right. Right. And it will be like in the latest Ghostbusters movie where the little kid the podcast kid, he's like, I think I really found my voice in episode 46 or something like that.
Yeah, but we got a full actually streamer botch. There's a lot that Frank and I have seen, a lot of new stuff. One of the items is a bit older, but a lot of new stuff that's out in theaters or was out in theaters recently. And then we do have an update on the Batman. And I'll save that for later. Frank, I'm gonna let you kind of get into that when we get to that part of the episode here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not what you think, but streamer botch, let's get after it.
Yep. First segment up here is Streamer Botch, and the first one we have is Buried, the 1982 Alpine Meadows Avalanche. So this was a documentary I had actually watched. It's available on Netflix, and it came out last year. But it was a pretty cool story about this. I guess it was a disaster, really a natural disaster. Obviously from the name of it, it was an avalanche. And I didn't even know how they did avalanche control, and that was totally a thing. But apparently, I learned through this documentary what they do is they go up there with dynamite, and they had like military grade uh, shells and guns and stuff like that, and they would just blast the mountain when no one's on there trying to cause an avalanche. So it would happen when no one was around. uh, so basically the documentary is about the 1982 avalanche, like the title says. And it really was something that was unstoppable. And they talk about how really Alpine Meadows, it's really a hot spot for avalanches. And the guy who is the forecaster, and what the forecaster does is they keep track of kind of all the spots that are potential avalanche starters, and they make sure that they're going and they're keeping up and hitting these areas with dynamite and things like that. Well, they had a storm that came in. They were trying to prepare for it, but this forecaster really, he kind of developed like forecasting and doing this avalanche control. Like a lot of the people say this wasn't something that was like here's a textbook and here's a process on how to do it. And he really came up with a lot of that on his own. But the storm was rolling in and they were preparing, and it was just something that was bigger than what they could do. And what they typically do when they know there's a big storm is they send people up to the top of the mountain and they have them stay overnight so that they can wake up really early in the morning and start hitting these spots. Well, the snow just came in and was hitting them so hard that they couldn't even walk around and everything. They couldn't make it to some spots. They had to abandon really doing it. These people that were up at the top, they got stranded up there until it was safe to come back down. They had to close the resort, something that they had not really done. because it was just that the avalanche danger was that dangerous. Um, and unfortunately, what happened is all their processes and things that they were doing, because even talk about they had this military gun and they're firing shells at the mountain. He said they fired twice as many as they typically would, but it was just you couldn't see anything, so they didn't know if they were being effective or not being effective. And unfortunately, what happened is they found out that everything that they had done uh, didn't work. And instead of just one of these spots having a little avalanche, all the spots just slid all at once, and it was just one giant avalanche. And it did. Few people did die, and that destroyed one of the buildings that people were in. Someone was, buried for actually a couple of days, and they did survive. That's kind of one of the feel good stories about it. But uh, just really an incredible watch, something I enjoyed watching. I know, Frank, I've recommended it to you to watch. Got you muted, Frank.
Yeah, you did. Sorry about that. It's a little rusty, a little rusty. I saw it on Netflix, and I just was like, I've watched too many of these, true story of how most of us or we've all died. And, I'm not trying to be insensitive to the people that were involved in it, but it just was something that I was like, I really don't need this in my day right now. So I skipped it. But I knew you had watched it and I knew you were going to talk about it. So I'm glad that you gave that detailed, like, hey, this is what happened. It sounds, that I would probably like it. But again, it's just like, I'm just going to skip that. The whole being buried by snow thing actually is a fear of mine. Not that we live in an area where there's so much snow, like that was going to happen to us, but it kind of goes back to the whole whenever we'll say something, it's like we have seen too many movies, so we have these like irrational fears. That's one of mine, being buried by the snow.
No, if anything, out your way, you're going to get buried by pollen.
Yes, that is very correct. The beautiful Ohio June snow.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's documentaries aren't for everyone. But if you're looking for more of a true story or something, kind of a little history event, and every once in a while I get a craving for those. Again, I learned how to actually do avalanche control now. I'm sure it's more advanced now,
Sure.
but that was interesting to me that they actually go and they just bomb this mountain.
That aspect of it for me would be I would be down for that, but when it gets to the people being trapped up there and dying, like I just, I don't need to hear about how that happened, but
Yeah, but it was a stream for me, and if anyone out there listening, if you check it out, let me know what you think. I know some of my coworkers actually watched it, and they thought it was interesting as well too. But want to go ahead and get into the next one we got here. It is Godzilla Minus One, and Frank, you saw this in theaters
yeah,
recently.
yes, I actually was able to convince my wife to come with me, and she went under the whole, I'll go with you, but I want popcorn, I want a drink, and afterwards we're gonna go to lunch. And I said, oh, that's more than fine. This one, Matt would probably agree with me. Typically around this time of year, there's a movie that receives like little to no fanfare and just kind of comes out of nowhere. And typically these movies are like Oscar bait movies where, you know, this movie wasn't promoted and all of a sudden it come Oscar season, it wins all the awards. I'm not saying Godzilla Minus One will win all the awards, but it was the first time that I can remember that one of these movies that comes out of nowhere was like not an Oscar baiting type movie. And I follow a lot of YouTubers on a lot of reviewers on YouTube, and they were all blowing this movie up. And I would I would admit I am not the biggest Godzilla fan. I think there's like 30, 35 movies in total, including the newer American ones. It's a lot. And it's kind of daunting to like want to sit down and be like, I'm gonna do a 35 movie Godzilla marathon. So I never really was into Godzilla beyond like I had the toy growing up, but when this movie was getting the reviews that it did, and I think it has like a 94 or 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, I've not heard a bad thing about this movie. Finally, I said, okay, I'll bite. And I was kind of patiently waiting for it to come to the theater in the town I live in. And they usually do a pretty good job of getting most of the movies. It's rare that they don't, but I found out that this movie, it's a foreign film. It was made in Japan by a studio by the name of Toho. So it was only showing in very select theaters. Luckily, I live near Columbus and there were a handful of theaters showing in Columbus. So we went to the one theater and we saw it. And I really didn't know what to expect because all I really know of Godzilla is kind of funny. It's a dude in a rubber suit. My favorite Godzilla movie prior to this one, spoiler, I love this movie, was Godzilla versus Kong, and I didn't like it for. I don't like Godzilla versus Kong for Godzilla. I like it for King Kong. But this movie, it wasn't about Godzilla so much as it was about the people that are impacted by like the fallout of Godzilla. And it takes place from the final days of World War II, and then 2 to 3 years after it, and it follows a group of characters that come together and form a family. They've all experienced tragedy from the war. They're all Japanese, and yes, the movie's all in subtitles, so that's one of those things that might deter you. But honestly, this movie could have removed Godzilla entirely from the plot, and it still would have been an amazing movie. They had no less than 5 or 6 gut punch moments. Like I'm talking, Matt, Pixar level gut punches. And it got to a point in the movie where they were happening in such quick succession after one another. I was sitting there, I was like, holy gosh, like I'm still processing what just happened. Don't throw another one at me. And when Godzilla did show up, he was terrifying. It was kind of like how they utilized Jaws in the original Jaws movie. That's how they did Godzilla in this movie. But the one thing that I have noticed in the handful of Godzilla movies that I've seen is typically when the movie starts, you have a good 40 minutes before Godzilla shows up. So, it's just like introducing these characters. Well, this movie was like, how about Godzilla in scene number 3? And they establish immediately, like, this isn't like your rubber, goofy guy in the rubber suit Godzilla. Like, he is a force of nature. And it almost, they play him out like a horror movie. And it really worked. But like I was saying, Matt, it the movie could remove Godzilla entirely, and it just would be this amazing movie about these people and that had to deal with the tragedy and the fallout of war. And I'll admit I did shed a few tears watching it. And to be honest, this isn't a stream for me. This will be a buy when it comes out on 4K. I'm talking, Matt. I'm going all out. I'm going to get the Steelbook, everything. But um, was it my favorite movie of the year? No, I still think that's Oppenheimer, but man, this came dangerously close.
Bruh. Bruh, you're such a Godzilla fanboy. You're out here lying to people.
No, I'm not. I'm a King Kong fanboy, but I will tell you this: after this Godzilla -1, yes, Godzilla fanboy now. Like I have drank the Kool-Aid. I'm ready to go, baby.
So, that was one of my questions. Is it, subtitles because you said it's a foreign film, and
Yeah.
it's possible he could win best foreign film. You never know at the Oscars.
I would be very, and I think this is the only foreign film that I've seen this year that I know of. I would be very surprised if it wasn't at least nominated.
Yeah,
And speaking of that, though, I honestly think this was the first time I ever went to see a foreign film. And it was kind of a unique experience to be in the theater. And there was, quite the group of people. There was a guy there with his 2 sons, and, there was like an older couple that you could really, and then there were like the majority of the audience were the people that they don't go see movies, they go to see films. You know what I mean?
so why the -1? What's
So I had to look this up because, like, at no point in the movie, unless I missed it, because I did get up to use the restroom at one point. but I don't think I did. So
Like I'm
being
trying to see I'm trying to see a movie, not do math.
right, well, so the minus one comes from in a Japanese culture when the war ended, World War II, after the bombs were dropped and everything was essentially destroyed. They said that they were at level zero, like they had nothing,
Okay.
nothing was left. So now in this movie, Godzilla shows up after they're finally starting to like redeem and build, rebuild and get some things back together. And that's where the minus, so they were like -1. They went down to -1 because, another disaster hit. And that disaster was in the form of Godzilla. And I think one of the coolest parts of the Godzilla part of the story was when he used his fire breath, it triggered a nuclear explosion. I'm talking with a mushroom cloud, everything, and man, it just it the way that it's shot. Sorry, I didn't mean to bump the mic, but the way that it was shot, and the angles and how they showed him, he's so massive, but then they show how the mushroom cloud that he creates dwarfs him in comparison. They really did good work with the camera, and unlike that Godzilla movie with Bryan Cranston in, that's like really bad.
That was so disappointing.
Right. You know how like half that movie, whenever Godzilla is there and he's fighting the monsters, it's all at night and you can barely see what's going on. You They took the John Wick approach. You see everything, even the night scenes, like it's clear as day. You know what's going on. You can see everything that is happening. And for me, that really was a big redeeming quality because I remember when I was telling you that I saw that Bryan Cranston when you said, "What did you think?" And I said, "I don't really know because I couldn't see what was going on."
So I'm gonna do a challenge to you. All
All
right.
right,
So you say this takes after, is it World War I or World War II?
World War II.
Okay. I want you to do a timeline, like your own kind of Marvel timeline, because Oppenheimer, same time period, right?
Right.
And I want you to kind of put them in order for people to watch.
Okay. So it's funny because we were walking out of the theater, and my wife said, "I'm not trying to be rude, but this could potentially be a sequel to Oppenheimer."
That's what
So
I'm
the timeline would be you're going to watch Oppenheimer, and then you go watch Godzilla Minus One to see, the Japanese end of the story because it's alluded to that the bomb that was dropped, Oppenheimer's two bombs were the reason that because when you were first introduced to Godzilla, he's not massive. He's probably like T-Rex size, but the bombs make him the behemoth that he is. So thanks, Oppenheimer.
So give the people kind of what is the movie before Oppenheimer?
What is the movie before Oppenheimer? 1917.
Well, that's you could do that as actually even before that because that's World War I, right?
Right, exactly. So,
So, but like I'm thinking, like, is it a Saving Private Ryan, a Band of
oh,
Brothers?
I've always liked Band of Brothers more than Saving Private Ryan, personally. But then again, I need to rewatch Saving Private Ryan. But the problem is with Private Ryan is so many people have put on that opening scene of D-Day and the movie. What I need to do is like put the movie on, skip that scene, and just get to the movie.
Well, I didn't ask for your opinion of it. I'm asking for a timeline of movies.
So we're gonna go Band of Brothers, then we're gonna go Oppenheimer. And if you're getting bored during Oppenheimer, just or Band of Brothers, like pause one, put the other one in, and once you're done with both of them, then you're gonna watch Godzilla Minus One.
And then so subtitles in Godzilla movies. I mean, that's a tale as old as time, but
Right.
I don't know. I have a tough time with Godzilla movies, especially after that Bryan Cranston one. But
So,
last question,
all
okay?
right.
Last question here. So, I'm just clarifying something for myself. So, Godzilla exists this whole time,
Yes.
right before the bombs.
Right.
Do they have interactions with him prior to the bomb?
So we first meet Godzilla prior to the bomb, And that's that scene I was telling you, like, when he's introduced, it's like horror movie-esque terrifying, how he's, like, tearing through these people
Okay.
um, and then they escape I'm trying not to spoil it because, like, it's just one of those things, like, you had to go
Right.
in, but they
Right. He exists prior,
right,
and then so and he terrorizes people, kind of like in this horror movie fashion, like you described it, right?
right,
But he's really like the size of, like you said, a
a
T Rex.
T-Rex.
He's not like this gigantic monster that we've always known him to be. That's like skyscraper tall, right?
That happens after the bomb is dropped, and that
Got
because of the
it.
radiation, he becomes big. So, you're hesitant. I think, Matt, you're right to be hesitant after that Bryan Cranston Godzilla because I was too. However, Dune Part Two got pushed back, and I needed another movie before. I wanted to go see another movie before the year was out in theaters, and
Sure.
this kind of was what was out, and I thought, okay, it's getting great reviews. I'm curious to see what the hubbub's about, and I will tell you that the greatest, you know, person to really ask about is my wife, who had no interest in going. In fact, on the way down to the city, I was hit with a few of these. I can't believe I'm doing this. Well, maybe you drop me off at the mall. You just go. But then, I said, well, I'm going to get you popcorn. And I just
Well,
was
that wasn't
able to,
part of the negotiation. The
right,
negotiation was I'll get you snacks
right,
and
right.
lunch, and
So
you
that's
come
what
to this movie.
I told her. I said, "I'm gonna get you popcorn," but, like, she even told me at dinner tonight, and we saw this movie Saturday, and it's Wednesday night, and she said, I've been telling people at work about it all week because of the not Godzilla aspect of the story, because it is a beautiful story, and I there was a part in this movie, and obviously, it's a Godzilla movie. Not everybody makes it out alive, where one of the characters was about to die, and you knew, like, you kind of put two and two together. And I COVID ruined me with this. I always forget when I'm watching a movie that I'm not at home. So as it was happening, I yelled like, "Oh no!" And I got the elbow.
You know better. You know better.
I know,
I'm
but
disappointed in you.
but anyway, it's not a stream, it's a buy for me. It's an absolute buy.
All right. Well, hopefully it ends up on your movies anywhere because that's the only way I'm watching it, and I ain't paying for it.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, the next one we're gonna jump into is a kids movie. I actually really enjoy these movies. Trolls Band Together, and I guess Frank, you want to do it solo. You want to talk about it a little bit, but that's okay. We got it. We got it.
I
Get
don't
going.
I forget how this works. I'm just gonna let you handle it.
Yeah. Just put your hands at your side and let me drive, baby. But Trolls Band Together is this third installment in the Trolls, series. I've seen all three. If I had to rank them, I would say World Tour, which is the second movie, is my top one. This would be number two, and then the first one is number three. And why is that? Really, these movies are about the music to me. I mean, it's all kind of poppy, pop culture music. But Trolls Band Together, what it is if you're familiar with the characters, Branch, he used to be in a band, and his band was called Brozone, and it was him and his brothers, as a boy band. And not it's not really a spoiler alert,
Red
right?
alert.
It's not a spoiler at all, right? Everybody knows that NSYNC released their first song in decades for this movie, and that's literally Brozone is NSYNC. Like that's who it's referencing. And everyone, a lot of, especially like my wife, wanted to go to see this movie because there was a little chance that a little NSYNC song was going to make it in there because Justin Timberlake does do the voice of Branch, and you know there was a song that made it in there. But basically what happens is they're trying to hit the perfect harmony. They're doing a show. Branch is still a baby. They're trying to hit the perfect harmony, and the older brother kind of pushes everybody a little bit too far. But it's so funny that they have like the typical boy band. Like there's like the leader, there's the baby, there's the handsome one, there's the fun one. But the show, kind of just they falls apart. Then they have a fight about it. They break up, and that's how Branch actually ends up alone, and living with his grandma and stuff like that. And his brothers just kind of split up, and they kind of do their own thing for a long time until the one that Branch is actually the closest with gets captured by these two other individuals who are basically stealing his talent so that they can sing because they have no talent, and they have him trapped in this diamond bottle, and they're spraying themselves, and it's kind of releasing like this fume of his talent, and he's kind of disappearing.
So
And the
let
only
me.
thing, well, hold on, you wait a
I got
second.
questions. I got questions.
Well, there will be a Q&A session after I am done.
All right, I'm muting my mic.
So the only way to get him out of this diamond, prison, basically, is for them to hit the perfect harmony. It's the only thing that can break Diamond. Frank, question.
All right, so we have this guy in a diamond. It's oozing out the talent. So and you got these
Not
guys.
available for you, Frank. I'm sorry. It's not
Yeah,
a
I
real
know.
thing. There's no talent perfume for you.
Well, that's all right. I don't need it. I got enough talent over here. All right. So anyway, it kind of is it kind of like the ball from Space Jam? Like,
Yeah, in a
right,
way. But he's literally inside this thing, and
right.
like I don't. There's like no real mechanism. It's just like they spray this bottle, and it just sucks his talent out.
So are the did they present these people that are using the talent? Were they kind of like Milli Vanilli, like these guys that were just like the pretty faces, and do you remember? Do you know what I mean with Milli
I do
Vanilli?
know, yeah,
Okay, okay,
they were lip syncing.
yes.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
they play it like that?
No, they're literally just talentless, spoiled brats who don't want to work for a living, and they
Hmm.
think they're entitled, to it, and they figured out that they could take the talent. So, what they the so the leader finds out about their brother being trapped by these two, and he goes and sets out to get Brozone back together so that they can hit the perfect harmony and free him.
And I'm hearing you right. The name of the band is Brozone.
Brozone,
Okay, I
yes.
just wanted to make sure. Like the first time you said it, I was like, I think he said Brozone, but man, that'd be pretty wild. It's funny, and I get it. Like you were saying, like they all have the different one's the baby, one's the good-looking one, and growing up in the era that we did, there were boy bands like, coming out of the woodwork. They all had their like distinct, like I always like the guys that they tried to present as like the bad boy and the thug, and it's like, what is that? Come on.
Yeah, like the one that's like the good looking one, like the heartthrob. And the funny part is like they're the complete opposite when they find them in the future.
Yeah,
So
oh,
like
absolutely. It's all
they're
an
not,
act.
yeah, they're not like the act that they were.
Right.
But and not to spoil, but it was actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's such a stupid part. But when they go find the heartthrob, he's on like this vacay island, and he comes out of this wave on a surfboard, and they're playing "Sailing" by Christopher Cross.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's the artist, right? And
Yep.
sail.
Sailing, take me away.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, these are the jams." But that gives you, kind of a vibe that you get
Sure.
when you see these movies. Now, what I didn't appreciate though is uh they hit there's like a funk button just on this like little caterpillar mobile or whatever it is that they're like driving in, and it's almost like, they're on like an LSD trip. like and I
Oh
was like,
wow.
I was like, this is a kids movie.
Right, like pump the brakes. Like I'm trying to take the family out. I'm trying to have a good time. I'm not trying to explain this trippy sequence in a movie on the ride home. You know.
Yeah, like it was like something like you were watching like a Beatles documentary. Like it was like on that level.
So they went to Yellow Submarine territory.
Yes, exact. That's exactly what it was, and that's probably what they were trying to reference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not that kids really know, but like, maybe it's thrown in there for adults because that's typically what they do in these kids movies
Oh,
these days,
well,
right?
they probably threw that in there, not necessarily for like you, but there had to been, all the money that movie made and is still making. Hands down, there were grandparents that took their grandchildren in that movie, and they probably saw that scene. They're like, they're probably like elbowing each other, like, do you remember? I remember the '60s, or
Yeah, and I was thinking that too because again when they do these kids movies, really they're marketing to the parents, right?
yeah.
So
Oh,
there
absolutely.
has to be a reason for the parent to want to take them, but
The kids aren't
my
shelling out the money to go see it.
yeah, they don't have jobs, kids don't
No,
work,
kids don't work.
but my daughter really likes Trolls, and so I knew she would want to go see it and she would enjoy it too. And she's so funny when we go now too, because she'll see other people with popcorn. She goes, "We get popcorn," and so of course she's like negotiating the snacks now too.
Right.
But it again, the music really gets it for me. There was a lot of good tunes in there, just like there was in World Tour. And you might find it kind of odd that I ranked the first one the least, and it's just I just don't. The story isn't as good, the characters aren't as good, and the music's not as good as the other two. And it's really, I've said this before, music elevates a movie.
And I agree, but now I have a really big question, and it's like I'm Jigsaw over here. Like I want to play a game, Matthew. Which film series had the better music? Was it these Trolls movies or the Sing movies?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a tough
I
one.
knew it, I knew it.
I don't know. I would say they're pretty close. I do like Sing 2 a lot. I like the tunes in Sing 2.
Yeah.
So I would have to probably say Sing. But Trolls is a good movie. I would recommend watching this when it comes out. So it would be a stream for me. It's currently in theaters, so hopefully it makes it onto one of the streaming platforms. I know some of the other ones did. Eventually, like I think World Tour made it on Netflix and Amazon and stuff like that.
What you need to do is put these movies, all 3 of them. I think you got the first 2, but you put this new one on, your Movies Anywhere so I can watch it for free.
Oh yeah, well it definitely will be because the beauty of buying it is then you can make it downloadable, right? And you don't have to wait for it to come on streaming services. So yeah, you buy Godzilla Minus One, and I'll waste my time watching that like you told me to watch Kong versus Godzilla.
I didn't tell you to watch it. You were gonna watch that anyway.
You told me it was good, and I
It was
watched it,
good. It is
but it
good.
wasn't good. It is not.
There's a reason why they didn't give either of those 2 monsters a solo sequel after Godzilla versus Kong. They're like, "We're going right to the sequel with this because this is what the people want. They wanna see them fight." Yeah,
But no, but this one I will be buying. It will make it on my Movies Anywhere, so you'll get an opportunity to see it too.
great, great. And, if I, don't change the password, when Godzilla Minus One's on there, I'll let you watch it.
Sounds good. We're gonna move on to the next one. We got Killers of the Flower Moon, and Frank, you saw this one.
I did, and I spent the $25 to buy this movie without having previously seen it because I had read the book and really liked the book. This is a true story about how essentially the FBI was formed because there was a lot of murders going on in a small town, I believe Oklahoma, Oswego County. I could be wrong on one, the pronunciation, but two, the state. I'm kind of blanking on it. And so I had, Martin Scorsese directed it. It has my favorite actor of all time, Leonardo DiCaprio, in it, Robert De Niro. Thankfully not Matt Damon. But just kidding. But, so this was like a movie that I really wanted to see in theaters, but it's 3.5 hours long. And one of the things about this year in movies, so many movies that have come out are 3 hours. So I just was like, by October when this was out, I was over going and sitting 3 hours in the theater. So I said I'll wait for it to come on streaming, and I did. And I will tell you, at first, the movie starts, and the movie's really well done. The costumes, the sets, the cinematography, the music's fine. It's not great, but this movie just had no emotion whatsoever. There were a few good scenes throughout its 3.5 hour runtime, but man, like, I will say this about the movie with Martin Scorsese's last movie, The Irishman, which had a also a very similar runtime. These 3.5 hour movies. It's like, my guy, these story you got to stop taking movies that are meant to be like an hour and 40 minutes, 2 hours, and stretching them out, because it doesn't work. And I'm honestly at a point with Martin Scorsese, and it's like, I'm not saying that your old movies are bad, they're not, but you've lost your touch. And I think the biggest problem, Matt, with the movie is, in the book, it focused on, like, if you were smart and you're paying attention, you know who the killers were, right? Immediately. And the book focused on, the town, and oh, who's killing all these people, but it also heavily focused on how the FBI was formed. And I was so pumped to see that aspect on screen. But he shifted perspectives. It was based on, they focused on the killers and why they were doing it. And the FBI only came in at like the 2 hour and 45 minute mark. And by that part, I was just like, I'm just gonna finish this to finish this. This was a big letdown for me. I was really looking forward to this movie. I thought it was gonna be great. And it got really good reviews too. And I can't help but ask, like, did I see the same movie? You know what I mean?
Well, it is called Killers of the Flower Moon.
Right.
So,
And so is the book. Like, I get it, but also it's just like, I feel like this was a massive missed opportunity.
so you wanted more. So, like, you say, like, the FBI comes in like super late,
Super late.
and
Crazy late.
it's kind of like the Dark Knight Rises. Like, where's Batman at? How do you have a movie without Batman? He shows up like the last half hour of the movie.
Right. Well, I mean, we get that good 20-minute stretch before, Bane breaks his back, but then it's another like 45 minutes of like no Batman,
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Martin Scorsese, I feel like he's trying to make the longest movie possible.
I agree with that, but I'm gonna throw in as well, like, it's clear that he's just at a point where he doesn't, he's made his money, he's made his masterpieces, and now he's just doing, like, these ones are for me. They're super self-indulgent. There's no reason why they need to be 3.5 hours long. Like, who are you, Gone with the Wind?
But yeah, like, but no one's gonna see it. I mean, I have a, it's one of the reasons why I'm not gonna watch it is it's
Right.
so long. And actually, I'm glad that you saw it because now and you don't like it because now I'm not gonna watch it
Right.
because I had a tough time trying to convince myself to watch this film.
Yeah, and like I said, like, it had the right actors, it had the right director, it had the right source material. Like, this was a sure win. And I'm sure there's people out there that may not have read the book and are just like, you know what? I love the movie, but I feel like if you read the book like me, and I'm not saying like you always should read the book, because there's plenty of movies, adaptations that are better than the book, but it just, like, I feel like they picked the wrong perspective to follow is all.
Yeah, that's okay. And that happens.
Sure.
So you would say it's, I guess, a botch.
Oh, it's a botch, but if you're curious in the time period, and just if you're a big fan of Martin Scorsese and you're just like, I need to watch his new movie just because, then yeah, watch it. But I would recommend revisiting some of your old favorites like Goodfellas or Cape Fear, Wolf of Wall Street, The Departed, Aviator. Any of those are better movies.
You remember in college how many days it took us to watch Casino?
Um, I think correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there like a 2 to 3 month break to like to finish like the last half
There
hour of the movie?
was because we just like, and I love Casino. I think
Me
it's a great
too.
movie, but like again, like he's just Martin Scorsese has always done these long run times.
Right. And his sweet spot is like The Departed, where I think it like clocks in at like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's like, leave. I would rather be left wanting more than being like, you gave me too much. I'm too full. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Well, it's good to know. Good information. We'll move on to our final streamer botch here. I got a haunting in Venice. So this is
Ooh.
another installment in the Hercule Poirot, detective series. So you had what was it? The Murder on Orient Express. Then you had Death on the Nile, and now you have a haunting in Venice. So this follows up with Hercule. He's living in Venice. He's retired. He's lost like kind of faith in humanity. He's not really taking on any cases anymore. And there's a writer that's kind of like a friend. She wants him to go to this median, reading party or whatever you want to call it, because she thinks that this medium is a fake and she can't figure out how she's like so accurate or making things happen. And she wants Hercule, who, if you've seen the previous films, has a really kind of eye, and he's the world's most famous detective. He's good at figuring out things. And they go to this party, and it's being held by this mother who has basically taken over, turned this like what was like an orphanage at one point into a home, and it's supposedly haunted. And they're holding like kind of like this Halloween party there, and I believe it's during that time of the year. And the story is that when the plague was occurring, the doctors and nurses actually locked the kids in this building, and they all died. And they haunt the building, especially any like nurse or kind of medical professional that comes in there. They kind of torture them and kill them. And there actually was a tragedy. The mother who owns the house, her daughter committed suicide, and it happened after supposedly her fiance broke off their engagement, and they think that it might have been the haunting, or they're trying to figure out like who murdered her. And so that's really kind of the plot of the story and how it kind of goes. And then there's its typical twists and turns, but just like the other two, it's very predictable. I don't think the other two are really that great. I watched it because it was available on one of the streaming services. It was on Hulu, and I have that available to me, and I was looking for something new to watch, so I turned it on, gave it a try, knowing it was probably going to be like the other ones, and it exactly was. So you're not getting anything new with this movie. If you like the other two, check this out. You'll like this one too.
I really I didn't I wouldn't say I loved the first one, Murder on the Orient Express. I thought it was very cool. I had read the book, and I had seen, I think it was done in the 70s, and Sean Connery's in it. And that was a
Rock.
welcome to the Rock. Red October standing by.
Then the game is on.
Oh, the game is on. Um, so I had known like what the end result was. I just thought it was cool seeing like a movie where you get all these big name actors and these bit roles, and I thought it was classically done. For that, I thought I really liked it. I thought the second one was just so pointless and boring. And jumping back to Killers for a moment, and Death in the Nile, people might think, well, he just doesn't like slow movies, not enough action for me. No, I appreciate slow stuff, but like if you're just being slow just to be slow, you don't understand what you're doing. Period. End of story. You're lost. But I didn't like the second one, so I have no interest in seeing this one. I would honestly, I'm more excited for the third Knives Out movie than I would be seeing Hercule. I can't even say his name. The Mr. Mustache is what I like to call him.
He does have a killer mustache.
Did he bring it? Because I know at the end of the second one he shaves it off. Is the mustache back?
The mustache is there. Say it with me. Say the word. Say mustache.
Mustache. Now we both have said mustache.
But yeah, he ends up, as always, and it's not really a spoiler. I mean,
He solves the case.
he solves the case. He figures out what happens, and that's the end. Ta-da!
Right. Finn.
So if you've never seen that, for the Finn is I'm assuming you're bringing up the Dory or the Finding Nemo. Like there
Yeah.
was a meme for a long time, because it says end and it just says Finn.
Finn. Well, and I was going off of Family Guy because I don't know what language is in, but Finn means the end in some language, and it pops up at the end of film. But like Peter Griffin going Finn, just like always cracks me up.
Yeah, right.
So
Oh
this
yeah,
is this is a botch for you then?
yeah. I mean, it really is. Again, I watched it because it was available to me
Sure.
on a streaming service that I had, and I really was looking for something new, and that's kind of the thing with me is I'm always looking for new stuff. I like to rewatch things, but I would rather watch something new uh, that I haven't seen, and I don't know. I was holding on hope. I was like, well, maybe this is better because it's a haunting. It's
Right.
not just a murder mystery. It's a haunting.
Sure.
But it
Sure.
really wasn't a haunting. Like they kind of is in the movie, and the special effects with that are actually pretty cheesy. If I
I
have to say.
well, you know why that is though. The special effects look like crap. It's Fox, aka Disney. So anyway, that's a discussion for another episode. But
Yeah, so it's a botch. But yeah, I mean, if you like the other ones, check it out. It's available on Hulu right now. So, gonna get into our final segment here. We are gonna do a little children with adult money, and let me set the mood here. Let me get the mood music going on here. Right, we got him. Vengeance.
I'm vengeance.
So, Frank, you kind of broke some news to me earlier this week. Why don't you go ahead and get into that?
so as you know, Matt and I have been waiting for our Hot Toys, the Robert Pattinson, the Batman, to come in, and I've been keeping my ear to the ground pretty closely. Um, and I just every day I check the guys that review these. I check in with the store that that we bought this guy from. They always post videos of, hey, here's our review video, meaning within the next month or so that this is, this product will, be shipped to you, those that bought it. And, the news broke, I want to say yesterday, that all these newer photos, like the photo that we're looking at, is he looks like that, but he looks better now. The reason why he was delayed is because they're in competition with another company that does similar dolls. And yeah, I'm gonna call them dolls or action figures, whatever.
It's an action figure.
Right, action figures. And they saw the other company, I believe they're called InArt, released what theirs is going to look like. So Hot Toys got all like, well, man, we can do better. And honestly, like how he looks now is phenomenal. So that's what the delay was about. That's why it's been. What day are we on, by the way?
We are on day 107.
We are on day 107. And okay, so the release photos have come out. The Sideshow Collectibles, where Matt and I both bought our action figure from, okay, they released a video review today of the motorcycle, which is, he rides the Bat motorcycle in the movie. And for whatever reason, they must have got that first. So they did the video on the motorcycle. You can buy that separately. I won't be buying it. I doubt Matt will be buying it either. But at the end of the video, they said, hey, stay tuned. In the next couple days, we'll be releasing our video on the actual action figure, meaning it's coming. So right now, it was, it was delayed from, it was supposed to come out April to September. Was that the time frame, Matt?
I know it was supposed to come originally in the spring, then it got delayed to the fall.
Right. So we were in like the October to December, delay period. And I doubt we will see this figure by the end of the year. But Batman Watch, enjoy it while you can because the days are coming to an end. I would like to, let's get on record tonight, Matt, and take a guess, and we'll give each other like a week time frame, like, second week of January or whatever. When do you think he will be in our possession?
So I was actually going to suggest that too. So, the force on that one.
Look at that.
But I would have to say, I mean, I get it. He's here, but it is the holidays. It is
Right.
time to ship things out. And I have to say, like, because we haven't gotten an update, I want to say March is probably
Okay.
realistic.
I am going third week of February at the earliest. And part of the reason why is one, the holidays, but two, Hot Toys is a company that operates out of Japan. So they're not flying these over. They're shipping them over on big shipment containers, and that takes a while. So
Yeah, and I guess, maybe Godzilla got to them, which is why
I
it was delayed.
I was thinking maybe, the Hot Toys factory is now in the shape of Godzilla's footprint. Who knows? Like, have you been to Japan lately?
I don't know. No, I haven't.
I haven't either. So like, who knows what's going on? Maybe they're at -2. I don't know.
The closest I got to Japan was like watching Tokyo Drift.
Closest I got to Japan was when we went to Epcot and we toured around the world. And I think it was Japan. The one stop was Japan for about 5 seconds, and then we moved on to the next country.
But yeah, I mean, it is good news that they're getting in the figures and kind of the accessories that go along with them, and doing the reviews because, like you said, that's usually a sign that they're going to start shipping them pretty soon. So we're really not that far off. So it'd be interesting because I'm thinking kind of the middle of the March time frame, even like the beginning of April is kind of what I'm thinking. But
I would
uh,
hope. I kind of hope it's March because we originally ordered him in March, almost 2 years ago. So wouldn't it be cool that it's like 2 years later we finally got him?
Yeah, it will be cool, and believe me, those of you listening, when we get them, you'll know because you're not even if you're on YouTube, like you're not even gonna see my face. You're literally gonna be looking at this figure the entire
Yeah.
time, and I'll be talking to the side.
We're gonna do the figure in different poses on the screen. So like, it'll be the special the Batman episode, and that episode will fully be about this action figure.
Yeah, you know what? And maybe that's something we do. Maybe it's a Batman episode.
You know what? Maybe we'll talk about our favorite iteration, who we liked, who we didn't like. Did you like the cartoons? You like the movies? The possibilities are endless.
Right. But I'm glad we got a little update. It's not in my hands, but hey, it's something.
We can see the light. We're almost through the tunnel, baby.
Yeah, but that's gonna do it all for us here today. Catch us next time. Same streaming time, same streaming platform. Later, everybody.